welcome to Artistic Journalism online course. My name is Hideaki Ogawa from Ars Electronica. So, Christoph.
Hello, my name is Christoph Kremer, Ars Electronica Center.
Great. So, did you see this wonderful piece by Keio and Set? So, what is it?
Actually, it's a perfect start and it's a perfect bridge from our first lecture with artificial intelligence. What we've got here is an interesting artistic approach, and Keio brings together or wants to focus on the new forms of artistic expressions. And let's take a look when it runs. Then you see here the artificial brush strokes. They are generated by algorithm. And the big question in this, when you see it the first time, is whether there is the music is visualized with the brush strokes, or the brush strokes are controlling the piano tones. Make it, please pause it again. And here the great thing is that it's the other way around. Normally you have a music and then it's visualized. Here we have the visualization, the brush strokes, and these brush strokes sonifying single piano tones. And so we have the other process of creation and artwork by using algorithm who making these brush strokes. These are whole synthetic brush strokes, and they are amplifying, they are sonifying the piano tones.
Great. So, and you know, today is the second edition of Artistic Journalism. Today's focus is here, deep space, which is a very unique environment. This deep space is an 8K immersive space located at the Ars Electronica Center. And this unique media space, by the way, 16 meter wide and 9 meter long, with L-shaped structure, was developed by Ars Futurelab. And we are working with artists and scientists to develop a variety of applications. So meaning today's main focus is a platform, for expressing artistic, in a sense, journalism, also new science dialogue together with public audience. So this is the main focus of this lecture, Artistic Journalism, second edition, which is a collaboration with Keio University SFC, Japan. So Christoph, shall we invite the audience to this really interesting journey?
That's what we are doing right now. So I think we can keep on going this transient for 1 second, because in this special room I have a lot of different possibilities to control the programs what we are showing. We have a Xbox controller, we have a touch panel where I can zoom in into pictures, and for our first example I need my Xbox controller here. And yes, so this is really the platform for new forms of collaboration between artists, between scientists, and what is of course the most important thing for us here is you have to bring new experience for visitors, for students, for the whole public. And this is what we want to show in our first project. It's a perfect intersection of art and technology. It is called cinematic rendering. So it is from the cinematic side. This project was inspired by the Lord of the Rings saga. So the chief engineer of Siemens Healthineers, he watched with his son the Lord of the Rings saga, and he saw Gollum. And he was really convinced that this way of visualization, quality of Gollum, he wanted to have with the medical data what he's working on is his whole life, and this is data from computer tomography. And so what we've got here, and I have to zoom it a little bit closer, we've got here a living patient, and the visualization, what we see here is the cinematic rendering, and the basis, the basis of this creation is computer tomography. So we have a living person, and we can take a look inside this living person in every single detail by reducing the surface, get a little bit brighter, and then we can see here every single part of this person. And I also can zoom in, and this is what I'm doing here a little bit. So I'm zooming into the neck of this person, and we can now see here the atlas and all the structures, which is of course interesting for us as humans and for our students of medical in our medical university. They have to learn it, and this is what we created with this. We had this wonderful prototype of cinematic rendering, and then the idea was, okay, this could really be revolution for the learning, for the studying of human anatomy, and we created this, we call it the dissecting theater of the future. And for dissecting, I show you this example where we open the skull and we take a look inside the skull, and behind me, it's really fast here. We see here this huge marble here, and this is of course interesting for everyone who is interested in human anatomy. This is a big aneurysm, a gigantic aneurysm, and this is why the reason why this person was put into the computer tomography. And zooming out a little bit, and so we have here a wonderful platform for displaying this technology inspired by artistic works. And then it got really the effort for the whole public that everyone who's interested in our human anatomy can take a look at it in a really outstanding way. And we have a really benefit for our students here in Linz. They can study the human anatomy by using cinematic rendering.
Yeah, and here I raise one keyword. It's all about experience, right? So of course, traditionally, we can open a textbook, or we can browse kind of on the contents on the YouTube or whatsoever. But look, so now maybe for audience, you can find us as really a part of this big immersive environment. So actually, if you have any chances to come to Linz Ars Electronica, you can feel this very unique immersive experiences to dive into this new mode. Then actually this project is not only here in Ars Electronica Center anymore, right? Very unique application was installed in the Johannes Kepler University Med campus, so which is a place where the normal students, pupils are learning about the medicals. Then imagine, compared to normal education, so in the new space, we call it as MedSpace. MedSpace is a new application where you can find another deep space in Linz. But at the MedSpace, the education is completely going to be changed because, this, body is a new materials for the pupils to understand the varieties of patients and also disease. And by connecting to the hospital knowledge, I think the meaning of education is drastically going to be changed, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what is the daily process now really in this medical university is that the students together with the professors are going to the patients in the morning. They take a look at the patients in reality. And in the afternoon, they take a look into the computer tomography details of the patient, and this mixture, this combination of seeing the patient really, what is of course one of the most important things for a doctor, but then having the possibility to look inside. So you are visiting a patient and think, okay, that would be interesting to look inside him. And this is what is now possible. Directly 1 or 2 or 3 hours later, they really look inside the patient and then can really get a deeper idea of what is happening there. And of course, this helps the patient, this helps the students, and so it helps the whole society.
Absolutely. So let's go to the next application. We just studied one of the tons of contents.
Yes.
Then, so first example was very unique art and science combinations to open our body, to explore our body in that way. What's the next, Christoph?
Yeah, we started with these artificial paint strokes. Now we want to take a closer look to, I think, almost the most famous artwork in the world. And for this, I have to go to our touch panel, so I will leave you for a few seconds. And please, Thomas, our technician, let's take a look onto the most famous artwork in the world, the Mona Lisa. And we have here in the Ars Electronica Center a great collaboration with the Grand Palais in Paris and the Louvre, and they have delivered this wonderful gigapixel of the Mona Lisa. And what means gigapixel is that it is really huge. But for the first impression, Hide, please stand by the Mona Lisa. I want to show you how large the Mona Lisa is in reality. And this is about the size when you come to Paris, when you visit the Louvre. You maybe see this Mona Lisa in this way, but there will hundreds of people be in front of you, and so you have to jump a little bit. And this is what we can do here. We can now zoom in into this really outstanding painting, getting closer and closer and closer, and now we can see the brush strokes again, but now they are not the artificial brush strokes controlled by an algorithm. These are the brush strokes from Leonardo da Vinci. More than 500 years ago, he created this wonderful painting on a wooden plate. And what can be done with this wonderful way of taking a look into it? We can reveal details you won't see when you are in the Louvre in reality. For example, here we see that the wood already has this damage here, and it starts really on the upper side of the painting, and it goes down directly into the face of the Mona Lisa. But interestingly enough, it really stops right here when the hair comes to the face. Here this stops. So let's get a little bit out again. Yeah, and for everyone who is interested in cultural heritage, of course, this is a beautiful possibility to really feel this smile, this really interesting smile of Mona Lisa in a much more deeper way than visiting the Louvre where hundreds of people are standing around. I also want to show you another detail, because nowadays a lot of news are created about that people are attacking artworks. We see here an attack of this Mona Lisa about 70 years ago. A visitor threw a stone here onto this area here. We see it a little bit small damage. Of course, it was not a climate activist doing this 70 years ago, but the attacking of artworks is really, really a long-going process. And some of them are mentally ill, some of them are climate active, but it's not a new thing what we can now discover here. But Mona Lisa, most known painting all over the world 500 years ago, and it's really only a quite small thing here. And this gigapixel technology, what we can use here, is of course not only used for the Mona Lisa. We have hundreds of different artworks. You can zoom in and you can reveal details you won't see with your normal eyes when you visit it. You can use this, and this is, I think, is a good word for our deep space here. It's a magnifying glass to get really a closer look onto topics, onto artistic approaches, onto scientific approaches, and bringing this together and bringing new informations. And this is, I think, what also artistic journalism is about, bringing new informations, new ways of looking onto things.
The second maybe keyword can be change our perspective. You know, here, as Christoph mentioned, by having zoom in and zoom out, even though this content is very famous, and also some people physically visited to Paris to, you know, really see this Mona Lisa. But as I touched, you know, in my kind of, you know, improvising process, we can do that. We can share the experience but together with the process to change our perspectives. Observing the Mona Lisa, as Christoph explained, I would say, of course, you know, Mona Lisa is now recognized as cultural icon and also representation with very artistic, you know, kind of traditional painting. But just imagine when this painting was created. I would like to say, you know, they're including many methods, techniques, and also materials. This was, in a sense, also media at the time to capture the time itself. Nowadays, of course, you know, we are encountering with you know, news every day, but by having these new changes of perspective, even with all the content, but imagine the distance from ourselves to this time. It's over, you know, several hundred, right? So it might be a new news because we have a much more distance to our daily, you know, daily news, right? But for doing so, we need a special access, you know, to really encounter with even the history in this way. But this is also going to be creating new, in a sense, cultural news to understand the history and also present to be connected, don't you think?
Absolute. And I think the power of images, the power of new images, maybe a new form of creating images, this is what triggers the public more than the refraining of things what you have already known. And to say, okay, Mona Lisa is old, but we have new forms of getting closer to it, have new forms of showing it, makes it really interesting for everyone. And this is a thing I think we have to really think about when we talk about artistic journalism, that is a new form of focusing, a new form of looking onto things. And I think this we are going to do for the next project as well.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Yes, please, Thomas, start it. I again have to grab my Xbox controller. For this project now I need the black one, so we're really having several devices here for controlling it. Yes, distance. Hide mentioned that it is of course always a question of which is the distance to a news, which is the distance to places where things are happening. And now we want to show you, I want to show you a really great project.
Physical distance, right?
Physically distant. It's called Uniview, and it is the complete atlas of the whole known universe. Important here is to mention that it's based on the actual human knowledge. So this is not something what somebody created out of his mind, but everything is based on our human knowledge. And I want to show you some interesting points here. The first thing is I can control the whole thing. I can show you things what I think is interesting for you and what I want to bring your attention to. So, for example, okay, we have here the night sky of course, I want to go to Japan. Where is Japan?
It's a little bit getting dark, but not yet.
It's we have here the dark side, and here we have here Japan, I suppose. It's not too good to see, but so
Yeah, here, right?
yeah. So we see the big cities of Japan, and I think it's better. It's easier to see when we see the United States, because there is completely in the night at night. And okay, so we see here all this. Everybody knows this. These images that you see here, for example, the big area of Chicago, or here the big area of New York, and all this light pollution what you see. And of course we can think about that all this light what we are producing here consumes energy, and is on the long run a really problem for all of us. But you see that it's not only in Northern America, it's also in South America, but it's really not that much as we see in the northern of America. So it is really a question of the distance, and this is, I want to give you just a short jump to one of the interesting things we humans created, and we can now jump to, or fly to, the International Space Station. We see here the orbit of it, and now I have to fly there. So here we have it. Distance here now is 400 kilometers from the surface of the Earth, and there we see this great project, the ISS, International Space Station. And every single person who was a few days, a few weeks in the ISS, he said, okay, now I see the whole Earth in a completely different way. The overview effect is it called, because when we now try to bring it a little bit into your place, now we see here that we are flying now all over a big sea. I don't know where exactly we are, but you can imagine by sitting in the ISS, taking a look onto the Earth, it's a completely new feeling of united people all over the world, unity. And I think this would be one of the greatest possibilities for peace in our world, is that when everybody could have 1 week in the ISS, then I think a lot of things would happen differently. So ISS is really important and really interesting, and a lot of scientific work is done there, but also artistic work is done there. The process of creation is one of the things what is interesting for us and what is interesting in this field of the deep space. And now, please, we can now jump to the James Webb Telescope, please. And now we see here one of the newest things what we humans created. It's the James Webb Telescope. It was launched in 2021, and it's really a fantastic example for craftsmanship, for human craftsmanship, creating this telescope flying through the sky. So we've got here 5 sun shields. They are protecting the infrared telescope from the heat of the sun and the moon and the Earth. And we've got here 18 gold-plated beryllium. This is the mirror for the James Webb Telescope. And with this now, we can really explore, discover things in the universe what we have never done before. So we have now a completely new sight onto things we have never seen before, or we see things what we also already know in a new on a new way, in a new perspective. And I think this is bringing it to the point. A new technology enables it to discover new things, and also to discover new perspective onto things we already know. And this is what I want to take a look now.
Can I add one?
Yeah,
thing?
please.
Maybe as a keyword, third keyword here is a tool. As Christoph mentioned, to acquire new perspective or to find something new, we need a tool. And as here, this is a telescope or ISS. There are many devices and tools to allow us to find the new perspectives. How can we build such new sensory towards humanity or toward the also scientific facts? So before thinking or conveying something new or expressing something, we needed to get the new knowledge, through those new tools. So I would say the tool is one of the elements to empower the process of artistic journalism, don't you think?
Absolutely. And really to bringing a new form of storytelling by new forms of creation, of content creation. Let's take a look onto a great comparison between what this James Webb Telescope can achieve and an older brother, an older sister of it, the Hubble Telescope. Quite famous, the pillars of creation. It's an image taken, the left one, I want to zoom in a little bit into this one here. This was taken by the Hubble Telescope in 1995, so about 27 years ago. This was this world famous image from the Hubble Telescope, the Pillars of Creation. It's located in the Eagle Nebula, and we see here gas, and we see the process of the creation of new stars. So I think one of the biggest things what we can really take a look at is the creation of new stars. This is happening here in this Pillars of Creation. And no big wonder that, of course, also the James Webb Telescope tried to take an image from these Pillars of Creation, and this is what we see 27 years later. Much more detailed, completely new way of looking onto these Pillars of Creation. And I think this is when we are talking about journalistic approaches. We have the same content, we have the same thing happening. Gases are creating new stars, but we have completely different ways to show it. The left side we see it is the way we used to look at it for the last 27 years. And here we have now the latest view onto this constellation. We didn't know that it looked like this. It is only possible through this new James Webb Telescope. And for 27 years, since 1995, this was our knowledge, this was our image, what we are using for this narration. And now, not that the narration changed the whole way, but it has now a new perspective in showing the images from the James Webb Telescope, these Pillars of Creation, in this new form of resolution, new additional information. And so a completely new way to talk about this topic.
Yeah, here I would add one more keyword about participation. So for really discussing this, this environment allows to participate in, the experience, but through the new perspectives supported by new tools. So those are the kind of keywords, connectivity, about the way to build or create such a platform where artistic, scientific communication could be nicely promoted. So in the last few minutes, I would like to just discuss with you from your experience, because Christoph is daily, in a way, observing behaviors about the visitors, from all over the world here in Ars Electronica Center. So for you, what's your kind of findings to have this kind of, unique togetherness at the deep space, especially for discussing some complicated topics?
Yeah, this is the important thing is complicated topics bringing into the discussion of a broad public is only possible in this, in my perspective, and here in the deep space in the museum, by using 5, 6, 7 minutes of input in this quality. And of course, nobody can understand the whole thing of artificial intelligence or of how this James Webb Telescope really functions in detail, but they know, okay, what is the outcome, and they know what is the influence onto us, and then you can make it discussable. And this is what we have seen now with these different projects we presented today. We started with these artificial brush strokes. Then we had the Mona Lisa with these most famous brush strokes in our time. Then we took a look into the human body with a completely new way of visualization data, and now we have these new tools, the Hubble telescope and the James Webb telescope, bringing into new forms of information. And all this together, by combining this into 20-25 minutes, leads to a completely new perspective for the visitors. And of course, and now this is the most important thing, is you cannot leave them alone. You have to discuss, you have to talk about, because everyone who is coming here, whether it's a small child or it's an older lady, they have all their history, and they all want to connect their history, what they have seen now, and this is what we want to have, this discussion. And this is what we are having in our idea, in our core of the Ars Electronica Center, is that this is a museum that listens to the visitors, but of course, before you can listen, you have to present something where people are talking about.
So now another new keyword came to us: listening. Listening carefully to the voices from people, and also to the situations of our society. So that's the point, maybe, to make this kind of cultural platform to let us gather. But for listening, of course, there are many considerations, right? So do you have any kind of, experiences or points that way to listen carefully from audience?
Yes, so as I did a lot of presentations in this room, I can really say that the quality of the presentation now, I would say, is 70 to 80% of the feedback of the listening to the visitors. When I feel, okay, this point, this is now the one which is really interesting for more people. This is the turning point of not only consuming information, but also to combining this information to daily life, to my life. And so, and with every presentation, what we are doing here, we are developing this a little bit further, and now we are standing here, can say, okay, after more than 1,000 presentations, we have a good feeling what we, for this special audience, for example, should deliver, can deliver, and should deliver in the sense of this makes them a added value which you normally don't have.
Absolutely. Then so here, the name of the environment is called deep space. But as Christoph mentioned, so we are always thinking about X space, in a sense, because we are not talking about SpaceX, by the way.
No.
But our strategy is X space is a platform to discuss many topics, scientific topic, artistic topic, but also social, political topics as well, to deepen the discussions, and also for, in a way, co-creating new questions for our society.
Yes, and I'm sure after the break we will show you a completely different project and also created for a deep space, and then you get the next level of dimension of what is possible in a room like this. And for us, when we started here in 2009, it was the journey. We stepped into it and we didn't know where we came out. And now we are all in this journey for 13 years, and we have passed so many interesting topics, so interesting things what we have shown here in the deep space, and we know that journey is not over. We are going to the next step, and this is what you want to see after the break. The next step for the journey here in the deep space, and I think this is really valuable to see.
Absolutely. So the first part will be going to be over soon. The main focus was to introduce a new platform for artistic journalism. But the second part, starting in 10 minutes, will be focusing on the actual contents for the artistic journalism by utilizing fully this environment, deep space. So it's all about future of newspaper. Of course, today we started to go over, beyond the textbook or, like a normal medias. But you realize very radical, a very interesting, immersive environment of this deep space that later you will experience very unique environment and also contents to apply here for such new artistic journalism. So next session will be starting in 10 minutes. And we are inviting the other guest, Nicolas Naveau, senior researcher from Ars Electronica Futurelab, and also Nobuyuki Oishi, who is a senior producer, digital strategy and planning unit of Nikkei. We are showing a very unique, challenging, new, artistic journalism project called Data Space: Global Impacts of the Russian War on Ukraine, which is ongoing topic. Once again, thank you very much, Christoph.
Thank you very much, and we have our third artistic journalism in 2 weeks. See you there, hopefully.
Yes, he's coming back.
I'm coming back.
Yeah.
See you there.
So stay tuned. In 10 minutes, we are starting the second part. See you soon.
See you.
Hi guys, welcome back to the second edition of today's artistic journalism. And as you enjoy it, hopefully the first part about deep space and infrastructure for such artistic journalism. But the second part will be focusing on the contents. Actually, as Futurelab, we have collaborated with Nikkei, which is a financial newspaper quite well known in Japan. And we developed a new concept of the future of newspaper. So by using this example, today we could deepen the discussion about future media. So here today I have two wonderful guests. Nicolas Naveau, welcome.
Hello.
So he's an artist and a senior researcher at Futurelab, and also Nobuyuki Oishi-san from Nikkei. Hello.
Hello. I'm from Tokyo.
Yeah, great. So we
Thank you
have
for inviting
very
me.
unique mixture between this deep space and online, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's a very unique format. But in this session, we have two parts. One is at the beginning, Nicolas will be showing the latest outcomes of the project, Data Space, Global Impacts of Russian War on Ukraine. This will be at the beginning, we are showing it. Then later, we are discussing the point. So if you have any kind of comments or also some feedback, please use the online post box, and you can really leave your message, comments on the research. But maybe it's time for Nico to start this demo.
Yes, thank you very much, Hide-san. First, I will ask for the right stuff. Where is it? I had it for 1 minute. It's here. Okay, I've got it. Welcome to Data Space. My name is Nicolas Naveau, and I will conduct you through this experience for the next 15 minutes, almost. I am a researcher at Ars Electronica Futurelab, and this project was a joint collaboration and research, as Hide-san already said, with Nikkei and especially with Nikkei Innovation Lab. One thing I have to say is that normally people are here in this room and are experiences this project in 3D, which is of course now not really possible online, but I ask you for having an imagination of trying to think being in the image that you will see in 3D. To begin with this project, when we first start to collaborate and to research, the people from Nikkei found a very interesting change concerning the media by just changing one part of the letters of newspaper, which is normally the new listening, and by changing this small part here of the kanji in the middle, they could transform this in new immersive experience, putting the body inside the space. And this is exactly what this project is about, data space. Taking data and making them immersive, making them to be filled with your body. And through this, having a different understanding of the data. We will go through a different topic. The first one being crude oil. Maybe first, before I start with the crude oil, I just want to put the frame. During our research, the war from Russia on Ukraine started, and we choose to address this topic, getting some different example like crude oil, gas, refugees, cost of goods, military expenses. And let's start now with the crude oil.
Maybe Nico music.
I don't know where the music is. What you can see here is an evolution of the crude oil price from 2021 to today, with a red line representing the beginning of the conflict. And here you can see where Europe is taking its oil from, or was taking. I have to speak in the past now. But you can understand the relation and the difficulties to make the change. You have to think the import of oil to Europe was more or almost the same as the next 3 countries Europe was importing oil from. And of course, you can imagine the incredible difficulty to change that. So our question to this is, can we build a new economic system without oil? The next topic that we decided to have a look on is gas. We are always writing where the source of our data coming from. Of course, it's something you can find online, and there are quite sure and safe sources. The tunnel now that you see is coming from the evolution of the price of gas. And compare starting from 2021 to now, and with an increase of almost sometimes 100% at the end being September, from a few months, of almost 40%. And if you just remember, the tunnel was starting like having something like 1 meter, and now is almost 16 meter high, and you just see the evolution and of the price of the gas. Now, this little ball here is 1,000, always the same, 1 million cubic meter of gas. And this is an import in 2020 from Europe. And now what we will see is the evolution of this import. And in 2020, Europe was importing almost 400 billion cubic meters of gas. And having this in 3D in deep space is something very, very impactful. You see how big this amount of import is. And this is what it is about, to have a direct feeling of the data, to be inside the volumes. We are speaking of so huge volume, and seeing them here in deep space, having them in front of you, being inside of them, is giving you a totally different understanding of those facts. Now we can see in which country, where is this gas coming from, that Europe, those 400 billion cubic meters, where is it coming from? And almost 40% is coming from Russia. That means that some of European countries are totally dependent of Russian gas. For example, Latvia. Austria, it was in 2021, was, for example, depending on 86%. And at the end here, Germany, almost 50%. And this explains a little bit all the difficult political decisions that have been done now in Europe. And that means that the question needs to be asked now: what is the cost of our dependency? As you see, data space is a space where the topics are like moving from one room to another one. And the next topic is wheat. What you see now is, again, the price of wheat from 2021 to now. And you can see from the beginning of the war, the incredible increase of the price. What we have to know is that Ukraine and Russia are from the two biggest exporter of wheat worldwide. And here we can see where they are exporting the wheat to. Both of them, mostly in the same part of the world, Africa and Asia. The next data that we will see is directly related, but a little bit different. It will be a curve about the food price index. And of course, the food price index is not just the wheat, it has many other components, but wheat and cereals are one of the biggest part of this food price index, as they are some food for the animals, which are not after food for the humans, or directly for bread and so on for human. And what we see now is evolution of the food price index. And here again, there is two special points which are very interesting, or three. First is, okay, it was incredibly increasing after the war. Everybody knows that all the problem of the cereals being blocked on the Black Sea. But what's the interesting point here is that the two times where it happens before that the food price index had such a huge increase, in 2006 and 2011, were two times where civil riots happened. Maybe most of you can remember in 2011 what we call the Arabic Spring. And it's exactly this corner between Asia and Africa. With a country like Syria, Libya, Egypt, and so on. And once again, we can just think, okay, if the price is rising like this right now, what is possible or what may happen in those countries? So the question is, can we avoid hunger? Another super important topic concerning the war, of course, is the refugees point. Here you can see the total refugee movement from Ukraine on the wall going to neighboring countries. The main movement of the refugees is going to Poland. But also, a part of them are going to Russia, which is maybe contra-intuitive. On the floor, I'm sorry, maybe online you will not see it too much, but we have the movement of the people being displaced inside Ukraine, meaning moving mostly from the east part to the west part. But that is also more than 6 million people moving. So almost not so much, but still a very, very strong movement inside Ukraine. And this is coming to this, for us, to this question, what is your home? Maybe not where, but what? The next point we address is about consumer price, the so-called inflation. We have now all the same experience. Everything is getting more expensive. The space for life as consumer is getting narrow. And this is what we try to express here, comparing the different countries, US, Europe, China, Japan, India, and Russia. And if you have a look to Russia, you will see that the space, the inflation was getting so high that it's even deep space is not big enough for this representation. We are speaking here just about the consumer price index, not about the services. and being more in Russia at that time, in February, more than 16%. And then after going further, in September, it was going to something like 18% of inflation. And in regard to the planet B, with all its problem relating to climate and biodiversity and so on, and our way of life, the question is, maybe can less be more, or could we think about new way of living in our society, maybe without this strong consumer part. And finally, the last topic we addressed, of course, when you think about war, you have to think about military. So we had a look to the military expenditure, and we are just showing the 10 countries which are having the biggest expenditure for military, including Japan, just to have a comparison for you. This is on the wall, and on the floor you've got those rings which are showing the total expenditure worldwide in military, starting from 88 to 2021. As you can see, I mean, if you are in this phase, you can really feel this huge difference. For example, between how many money the US, the United States, are giving for military, and for example, Japan, or even Saudi Arabia. Whereby we have to say, this is the total, so the net expenditure. It's not compared to, for example, the numbers of inhabitants per capita, or not in relation to GDP, because if you do this, you've got, of course, total different numbers. One very strong point here is on the floor, that in 2021, the world military expenditure passes $2 trillion for the first time. You have to imagine $2 trillion. It's an incredibly huge amount. And so this is for the military expenditure, and of course you have some companies who are having some profit from this. And here we just had a look to 4 companies, the stock value of 4 big military companies: the Northrop Grumman Corporation from US, the Mitsubishi Heavy Industry from Japan, the BAE Systems from UK, and Lockheed Martin Corporation from the US. And here, of course, you can observe the strong increase after the beginning of the war. And our question is, and especially thinking again about all the problems that our planet have, as we have seen, there was already $2 trillion for military expenditure worldwide. What about $2 trillion for planet B? Planet B being the better planet we want to create together to face all the problems like climate change, biodiversity, or maybe democracy loss. The final part of the data space, now we have seen the data concerning the Russian war on Ukraine, and it's not just about feeling the data, having them in front of you and seeing really those volumes and being inside of them, but it's about starting a discussion, starting to think. And this is the last part of this project, creating a space for starting a discussion. Of course, it's not possible in the frame of a visit at Ars Electronica Center to discuss totally deeply all those questions. But we wanted to initiate the discussion, and we wanted to give a space, and this is a part of the artistic journalism process too. Not just to give the data, to inform, but at least as we see it, to start a dialogue, to start a discussion process. So maybe we can make a small experiment today, if you are okay with our Japanese visitors. I don't know if it's not working, then we will go on together. But you can see here all the different questions that we were going through in this program. What is the cost of our dependency? What is your home? Can we build an economic model without oil? Can we avoid hunger? What about $2 trillion for Planet B? Or maybe it's less, more. And maybe online you can start through the YouTube channel to write your comment or maybe write your point of view on this. And Hide-san will read them and we can maybe start a discussion if you like.
But for sure, now it's time to invite Oishi-san as well, because at least we can proceed as 3 persons to discuss one of the topic. But before going to the discussion, what I would like to address now is like this, data space is not like a normal graph or normal news article to explain about the fact, but also the these economic numbers and the fact are very also different from the mass media coverage, broadcasting images or footages from on-site. So meaning this combination of statistics as numbers and also artistic aesthetic as Futurelab developed, if both combined together, so as you hopefully enjoy the process, you are more able to approach to this topic. But I'm gonna check if someone is commenting, but not yet because of maybe the time delay. But maybe do you have any points that you wanna discuss?
No, maybe we can start with
Oishi-san.
Oishi-san to invite him on board.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So this project is I think it's quite new, and especially for the media company, and combining the, as Ogawa-san said, the combining the art and journalism. I think it's very experimental trial, and so it's great, and also it's a great experience for me. And can I talk about my discovery?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So I'd like to ask for both to you guys about what have you discovered through the collaboration. So if you have any insights and experience from this project, let's share it with others.
Yes. So there are 3 things I discovered. The first one is that I realized art is a powerful tool. And because art appeals to all 5 senses and the mind, as a result, it engaged people. Our data space got a very positive reaction at the festival, which was far better than I had expected. I think that was mainly due to the power of art as a function of engaging people. And the second one is that I was able to learn a lot from artists. And I learned more about artists' way of thinking. Through the art thinking workshop provided by Ogawa-san, and even the average person like me was able to learn how artists think. And through the workshop, I realized that art could be a catalyst for innovation, which is necessary for stimulating the stagnating the Japanese economy. And the third one is a super encounters. I was able to meet various kind of people through collaboration. I'm a journalist, so my job is to meet people, but the people I met through this experience was so unique from the people I usually met through my work. And I think that connecting people is also the power of art.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we are very happy to have such serious persons and partners who are dealing with journalism as a front line, because as we culture, and education institution, of course we are collaborating, but we didn't, have such a serious collaboration to propose some new kind of, ideas to the public yet. But maybe Nico, also from your perspectives, through this collaboration, I was always next to you, and I listened to what you experienced, but you have something new findings, right?
Yeah, there are different points. The first one was as finding, as Oishi-san already said, was amazing response from the public. So it seems that with this kind of experience as a deep space, as a collaborative, or not collaborative, as a common experience of data, so we have to think that too, that people are experiencing this together. It's not something where you are alone on your telephone and just getting some news, but you are experiencing something together, experiencing some hard fact. I mean, those are numbers and so on, so graphics that normally most of the public wouldn't really care about, but having this experience and this size and this music and so on, all this setting and this aesthetic language too, then we really touch something, and the response of the public was really amazing. That means that there is a need somewhere maybe for this, and this is one of the points. Second stuff for me, and this was something we talked about with Oishi-san, and I never thought before, is to see the art as a kind of slow media. And especially in comparison to iPhone or to your smartphone or to television and internet, where everything is quite speedy. You've got such an amount of information. You scroll like a I don't know, as if you were running a marathon or something like that. And here we just give a kind of not just a space but a time. And this idea of giving time seeing the art as giving a time for an experience was for me something I was not really thinking about before. And maybe the third one is more consideration to the topic itself, is how you have to be careful when you are addressing sensitive topic to the public.
True.
And you cannot go like and just say what you think is the truth on this kind of stuff. You have to consider all the kind of sensitivities that are present in the public, in the other artists and so on. And this was a new experience, which is very, well, I learned a lot about that. It was a new experience to really take care when you are speaking about sensitive topics. You have to consider really the most sensitivity as possible.
Absolutely. And as Nicolas said, this topic is not solved yet. And also, as this title says, what's the global impacts, not only those relations, but also the impacts are, of course, quite significant to our society, our world. And for the audience remotely watching, maybe it's hard to understand the real setting, but here, deep space can have over 50%, almost 100% together. Actually, during the festival, we had such amount of visitors together to watch it and to discuss actively about this topic. So we open the point to stop to think, not just consuming. In a way, if I borrow your word, fast news. Like a fast food, like a junk news, connecting to maybe age of, also very difficult media, kind of conditions in our time, including fake news. So, but here is a physical place where we can see people faces who are speaking something together with, in a way, economic numbers based on the fact. So I think this is quite a unique combinations to make such a dialogue. But maybe connecting to this point, another second question is about what are the possibilities of such artistic journalism? What do you think, Oishi-san?
Oh, yeah. I think the possibility of artistic journalism are endless. And there must be many forms of artistic journalism, and our data space might be just one of them. Nevertheless, so as you mentioned, so in a survey conducted after our installation, we received a high rating of 4.5 out of 5. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, when asked, will you recommend data space to others? 100% of respondents answered yes. Mm. This result shows a great potential of artistic journalism. As I said before, art has the power to appeal to all 5 senses and the mind, so artistic journalism can create commons for deep thinking and deep discussion, as you said, a slow thinking. Mm. Another point I'd like to emphasize is that our data space was quite unique because this media art was created through an artistic journalism approach by a media company like Nikkei. Mm. If you look at the art history, there have been many artworks whose motifs are journalistic issues. For example, Pablo Picasso, Guernica, is a good example of artistic journalism, I think. But until now, artistic journalism has mostly been made by artists, not by media companies. I hope from now on, the more and more media companies will experiment with the artistic journalism approach, and these experiments expand the possibility of artistic journalism further.
Yeah, great insights. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Nico?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen in the last years in the festival, Ars Electronica, how this kind of approach is not a trend, but is really getting more and more important for artists to deal with some so-called hot topic or some difficult specific topic, from environmental to, as I said, biodiversity or social racism and so on, and try to work with them. And here the artist has really this a strong need to work on that, and it seems that it's always getting more and more. And this is good stuff here is that we can provide a platform for this kind of approach. And as Electronica, I guess we have to, because seeing that the artists are like really interested in having such methods and such a language or such approach to the public, taking some serious issue and finding their own way or their own language to discuss with a public, with a society. And then I guess presenting and having this infrastructure as a platform for this kind of work is a nice, very important move, so to say, or important stuff. The other stuff is maybe really the possibilities of, as Oishi-san said before, it's endless. I mean, just think about all the work we can do with archive. We work on them and giving them, making some insight from the archive and giving them to the public is a kind of artistic work, of course. Or like this one, just dealing with the news of today. We were confronted to this war, and okay, we just react and work on that. And in between, you've got so many shades of possible action for artists and journalists to work together. And maybe that's this new stuff is maybe this kind of new model of co-creation. Like artists, co-creation between artists and scientists was in the last decade getting always bigger and bigger. There's a lot of scientific, artistic work. And now there is maybe some kind of new one, which is maybe this cooperation between a more journalist and or investigator and an artist.
Yeah, considering the also the position of media, it's very interesting time to discuss also art and journalism, and even art and policy as well. When we are small, of course, media was positioned as a fourth force, to observe the authorities and the powers or social kind of issues. But since the media are quite suspected in a way from ordinary audience, I think it's quite now, time that we are envisioning the also new role of media or a new force in a sense to check our society or to have critical thinking, for better society with some new forms, including art. So maybe final question to you guys is about what is the future of media? Of course, this is a very hot topic in a sense, as I said, but also to like Nikkei, which is a media company, to utilize media as a service for society. But also here, Ars Electronica is a cultural education institution for deepening the media here. So I'm very interested in your insights about the idea of the future of media. Would you tell us?
Yeah. So as for the future of media, so I would like to mention Marshall McLuhan, a Canadian philosopher famous for his media theory. He's critical of a culture based on typography or printing. He believes that the way of thinking based on typography is not normal and makes some distortion. Since the printing was invented about 500 years ago, printing and typography have contributed a lot to the modernization of the Western world. But we now recognize many limitations of modernization. However, he predicts that the development of digital and electronic media would restore the people's ability to perceive things through all senses. That was the ability we had before until the invention of printing. I could say that artistic journalism is one of the future of media that McLuhan predicted. Artistic journalism has a holistic approach, covers both and physical senses and mind, as I said. This approach could be a crucial part of the future of media, I think. And finally, I believe journalism's critical role is to contribute to democracy, and which is facing a crisis right now, in my opinion. So artistic journalism will be able to contribute to democracy by providing the commons for deep thinking and discussion. That's my idea.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, we can just agree with that. It's applause. And definitely, I mean, if I just jump on your last word concerning the democracy and the problems that we see now in many societies where we can ask about the sustainability of those democracy, and at the same time the problem concerning trust, especially with the big media. And maybe for some good reason too, of course, and some of them are like monopolized in the hand of some billionaires, and yes, this is a problem. But on the other hand, we have all this fake news or all this conspiracy theory coming from the internet, where people are now getting this as a normal news. And there is here a big space for work, for journalists, I guess, and for artists, and giving maybe, and this is a little bit like this place, is a kind of public space, a physical public space, and mixing it with a virtual space to get this conversation, to get this discussion about the fact, about what we call the truth, might be really a very healthy way to reinforce the democratic process in a way. And here, as the artists have a very strong position, because yes, it's their job, so to say, to find a language, to find an approach to touch the people on an emotional and connective way.
Yeah. Listening to both. Please, yeah?
Yeah. So, as I said before, the art has a power to engage people, and maybe the future of future media, so not made by the journalists only. So maybe combining, so working together with artists and ordinary people, so engaging the people, so making the something. So that's the future of media, I think.
Yeah, I really see that too. Like, you know, putting some communities, so people who are concerned from some problems, for example, and so those people mixed with some journalists, because journalists have knowledge how to research for information, how to confirm information, how to see if data are right or wrong, and so on. And the artists are having this power of language, so to say, and this combination can be very, very, very strong, as you say, a new power.
Yeah. So listening to both really great creative insights, also I'd like to address the importance of futures literacy to understand the future. Because of course we learned so-called media literacy, you know, in our education, but not just talking about media or not just you know, learning the accessibility to media itself, but we needed to develop a new kind of strategy and also education and literacy in a way for future society. So this is what I found in our discussion today. So it's time. I hope you enjoyed today's Artistic Journalism second series, which was focusing on deep space. And within this course, at the beginning, we showed the deep space. It was a cultural infrastructure for promoting and deepening the artistic journalism. But the second part, with you guys, we could find a very unique application like a data space. But furthermore, we discussed the future of media and also artistic journalism. So once again, thank you very much, Oishi-san and Nico-san.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, guys. And let's see in the next public lecture on artistic journalism. So see you soon next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
お疲れ様でした。